Fix the past. The 26th of April, 2025. Are you not sick of fighting already? The man replied, What? You think you can fix the generations of massacres that happened because of this obvious religious contention? The servant replied, If our job is not to fix the generations of massacres, then it would be to prevent further massacres and genocides. A woman shouted, A lot of people have tried in the past. The man then said, And none of them were able to. You can't fix what has been broken for ages. The servant said, And God doesn't want us to fix it. He can fix it himself. The man asked, Then what are you trying to do? What are you suggesting? The servant pulled out a book from his backpack and said, Do you know what this is? The man replied, It is the Bible. Then the servant kissed the Bible and said, It is a holy book of God. Afterwards, he pulled a second book and said, Do you know what this is? The man said, It is the Quran. Then the servant kissed the Quran and said, It is the holy words of God. With the two holy books in hand, he looked at the man and said, There is no difference between them. The Quran confirms the Torah and the Gospels, and the Bible with the Torah and the Gospel are a collection of prophecies that are fulfilled within and through the Quran. Every person, he said, should read both holy books and give them their due respect and reverence. The man replied, Jews don't believe in either of the other books. They only believe the Torah. The woman said, And Christians too, they don't believe it. The servant asked the woman, They don't believe the Quran, although it came much earlier than the Book of Mormon. Yet, they do not have any problem believing that the Book of Mormon is scripture. The woman replied, The Book of Mormon is only considered scripture for some denominations and not all of them. The servant said, Some denominations of Christianity believe in the Quran. The woman said, That would make them Muslims, not Christians. The servant said, Why should that matter? To believe that a specific text is the words of God should not be an indicator to how you would pray to God or what religion you should follow. The man replied, That is wrong. It just means you belong in no group and no religion. The servant replied, Religion is determined and observed and practiced for God and no one else. If people practice religion in order to fit within a group, then who is to say that God accepts their practices or their rituals? Then he looked at the woman and said, Since you know about Christianity, if you practice religion in order to be seen as religious, doesn't that make you a hypocrite? The woman replied, It does, but that is somewhat contested. The man said, It also does not have anything to do with religion if you do it to be seen. The servant then said, Exactly. It is like what Jesus said about the Pharisees, who practiced their religion only to appear to others as believers, yet their hearts were not as devoted as they should be to God. He put the holy books back in the backpack and said, This is similar. You do not have to practice your religion in front of people just to be called by the title that history has assigned to people who practice that specific religion. You should practice it for God. You should read God's words, whether it is in a Bible or in the Quran, definitely, or even if you find it in Hindu scriptures. God's words will always remain God's words. The man said, But this does not fix the issue between Muslims and Jews, or Muslims and Christians. The servant replied, Why are you not seeing it the way I see it? If Muslims read the Bible and consider it with the sanctity that Christians and Jews give it, would the killing not stop? The man said, "No one knows except God." The servant said, "Of course, but since Jews and Christians have been fighting Muslims all throughout history until this day, do you not think that the solution is much simpler than a political dilemma, where people and the media would continuously lie to advocate their own political agenda? What if the solution is as simple as reading each other's scripture and considering the sacred things of one another also sacred to us?" The woman replied, "It wouldn't be an easy task to accomplish." The servant said, "Which is why no one has undertaken it. It is not so hard to treat a Bible as one would treat the Quran. They are both sacred, even if one of them had been changed throughout generations." The man said, "People will not listen. Would Muslims who spend a lot of time reading the Quran also have to spend a lot of time reading the Bible?" The servant said, "If Muslims did spend a lot of time reading the Quran and learning or studying it, they would be more inclined to read the Bible and study it as well. The Quran confirms the Bible message." Then he said, "Would a Christian spend time reading the Quran?" The man replied, "Not when they consider one another an enemy." The servant said, "Exactly my point. They are not enemies. The Quran speaks to all believers, Muslims and non-Muslims, and the Quran commands them to be just and fair with one another. The Bible also speaks to believers who heard the message of all the prophets and believed in them. The enemies in the Quran and in the Bible are those who worship idols and blaspheme against God." Shaking his head, he put on his backpack and said, "God never commanded Muslims, Jews, or Christians to be enemies to one another. In fact, God spoke to all the children of Adam, saying that Satan is our only enemy, our sworn enemy. It is Satan who makes people consider each other enemies. It is all over the story of Cain and Abel." The man said, "Again, it is difficult at a time like this." The servant said, "If we do not start now or begin this, we might never get a chance to do so. We cannot fix the world, and God doesn't need us to do that, nor requires it of us. However, if bloodshed has to stop, then it has to be from all sides. All believers are brothers and sisters. If history and false news and the media caused us to become enemies of one another, then we have the power to set our differences aside and attempt to right the wrongs."